Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I am your host, Dr. Guerra, and today's episode is going to be awesome. So I'm here with my friend and colleague, Doctora Maria del Socorro Castaneda, and she's a wonderful, wonderful person, and I'm so excited she was able to be here today. Yay! So exciting. So Doctora Castaneda is the leadership of a organization called Becoming Mujeres that focuses on young Latinas and their mental health. So this is really important. They focus on Latina development and supporting their mental health and things like that. So needed, I think, in this day and age. It's really, really cool. So welcome, Doctora. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. This is very exciting
Yay!
to be here.
Yes, it is exciting. Doctora Castaneda and I have known each other for some years now, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Mostly from the religion and theology world of academia. So yeah, it's been an adventure, I think both of us would agree. Like it's been quite a wild ride. But yeah, so I'm excited to talk today with you, Soko. And so, as usual, we kind of begin the podcast thinking about culture, thinking about identity, because Latinas are so diverse. You know, our experiences, our upbringings, things like that are so unique. And so, I would love to hear from you if you can share with us a little bit, kind of, where you grew up, how you see yourself, like how you understand your own Latina identity, because I know that your identity is something very important to you. So if you can share a little bit of that, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you very much, Dr. Guerra, for inviting me. This is it's such a blessing to be here to share with all of you and to share space with Dr. Guerra, who's amazing. So my story begins in Mexico. I was born in Juarez, Chihuahua, and I lived there with my parents until the age of 9. That was when my sister and I crossed the border and documented. I was 9 and my sister was 6. And it was my madrina, my godmother, the one who, and my padrino, my godfather, who crossed us onto to the U.S. And what they did is that
Wow.
they used the visas of their daughters. And I remember that was my first, to me, I would say my first true close encounter with our La Virgen de Guadalupe, because right when we were
Wow.
about to cross the border and we were approaching the checkpoint, mi madrina, she pulled a prayer card to La Virgen de Guadalupe, and she asked me, so okay, empieza a rezar, mija, because my sister was sick, so she didn't know what was going on. She thought we were going for a day. I was the one who knew that we were coming to the U.S., that it was something illegal, that we
Oh
had to
my
be police,
God.
so I knew what we were up against. So she pulled the prayer card to La Virgen de Guadalupe, and we start praying,
Oh,
because
wow.
my cousins, my madrina's daughters, didn't look anything like us. And I still
Oh
remember
my gosh.
the immigration official. He looked at the visas and looked at us, and he had this like smirk, kind of like, you, I know you
Oh
you're
no.
on the visa.
He knew it was, he was like, I know what's up. Like, oh my gosh.
And then,
So good. Oh my gosh.
my mi
So
madrina, she
intense.
was 9 months pregnant, and so the official just said, like, keep going.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, so then
Wow. La Virgen was with you. La Virgencita was with you. Oh my gosh.
so la Virgencita crossed with me.
Wow. Oh my god. Soko, I don't think that I knew that. I don't think that I
No,
knew of your story. Oh my
yeah, some people
gosh.
think that, I either like I was born here, or I came very young,
Wow.
but yeah, that's how we crossed. And then they left us at a house in El Paso, uh,
Wow.
and then they went back. So, but they knew the people where they left us. And
Mm,
we were there. Although it seemed to me like for hours and hours. And then my aunt and uncle right here from the Bay Area,
mm-hmm.
they um, they went to that house, picked us up, and
Oh, to
then
pick you up. Hmm.
yeah,
Oh,
and then okay, that's all. I get this. So
this is so intense.
yeah. So my aunt, she brought new PJs for us to change into, and
Hmm.
oh my God, these look so fancy.
Oh.
It's So yeah, so we came to San Jose, and this is where we stayed.
Wow.
And 2 months after my mom was able to join us, but she tried to cross the border 3 times por el río, and
Ay, Dios mío.
failed
Wow.
each time until she finally made it to the U.S.
Oh my
And then my
gosh.
father didn't wasn't able to cross until because we had to save money to pay el
Yeah.
coyote to bring him. And he didn't join us until a year after.
Oh my gosh.
So what we did during the summers in my early years is worked in the fields.
Oh my gosh. Socorro, I did not know all of this. Like, I did not. Like, I cannot. Oh my gosh, Socorro.
Yeah,
Wow. Oh
yeah.
my
And
goodness.
I remember my mom. She would always be because no, I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this. There has to be something better than picking. Oh, because we worked with in the plum fields,
Oh
so
my
la
gosh.
ciruela. And I was like, oh my God, this is tiring. And I remember I would get the bucket and then turn it upside down and I would sit on the
Hmm.
bucket and I love looking at the sun shine through the tree branches and always imagine
Hmm.
like I wonder what's on the other side. There has to be something better on the other side.
Oh,
And then my mom would be like, cada ciruela es un penny. We gotta keep going. Like every
oh
plum's a
my
penny. And
gosh.
I would like count. I'm like, oh my God, but it'll take a lot of plums to make $1.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Um, wow. Socorro, I had no idea. I had no idea. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of like I'm kind of like trying to take all this in right now. Yeah, I didn't know that that is your story. That that's kind of like how your family came from Mexico and stuff. And yeah, that's a lot. That's a
Yeah,
lot, friend. Oh my gosh,
my
you're
academic.
amazing. You're amazing. Your family is incredible. Wow. Oh my gosh. And just side note. I feel like people don't get it. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like people don't understand like what people go through to try to like make it and to try to like establish a life. It's really hard. But
Yeah, yeah,
oh
it is.
man.
I tell people that I became an adult when I was 9 because I still remember very clear the conversation that my mom had with me, my mom, my dad had with me before we were going to cross the border. They sat me and they told me is that you're gonna have no you're the older one and you're gonna have to take more responsibility
Wow.
and you're gonna have to take care of your sister, make sure that she
Jeez.
behaves, that she's okay because we won't be there to
You're a
take care
little
of.
mom. Yeah, you're a
Yeah,
little mom now.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then now my no, I was my sister's now what 51, and my brother's like 41, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're such a mom with us." I'm oh well, it's because I think
Well, yeah. There was a reason. Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm an older sister, right? I have a younger brother, and so my parents kind of instilled the same idea, right? Like that concept, right? The concept of like, watch out for him, take care of him. Like if we're
yes,
not there, you're responsible for him. So I mean, yeah, yeah, it's an eldest daughter kind of thing. Like, oh
yes,
my
yeah.
gosh,
And actually, if you think about it, because this is a very typical of the first gen experience
yes,
that we carry a lot of responsibility on our
yes,
shoulders. So we get to school not only with kid problems, but sometimes with adult problems.
adult problems, responsibility. Hmm.
We go to college and it's not just it's just me and my books and my studies and the friends I'm gonna. No, it's also like the responsibility that you have back home, whether it's um la preocupación, that worry
Hmm.
that is my family going to be okay financially, or in some cases that you are also you continue to help
Yeah.
your family financially even though you're in college.
Of course, yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, it's true. Like, how many times, from like my student loan money or work study money, it's like, oh, like I can, get this for the house, or let me, help with that. Yeah, it continues for sure. I think the term is like a parentification, right? When a
Yes.
child is like parentified, and unfortunately, it's true. Like, what happens is like there isn't really a childhood, right? Or it gets kind of like shortened because all of these, like you said, like all these adult problems happen. That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's hard. Yeah. Oh my gosh, friend. Wow. I'm kind of sorry. I'm just a little bit like, processing what you've shared. Thank you for sharing. My gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Um, I mean, it is so powerful. Thinking about faith and religion. I know that you've written a lot, extensively about Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so, yeah, I mean,
You know,
I,
with my identity, like identify as a Mexican immigrant. It's like that, that's my, obviously, I have a very Chicana political view,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but I still see myself as a Mexican immigrant.
Mm,
I still like, if you ask me, I don't feel the US my home.
mm.
I feel like I'm borrowing, kind of like when you're renting a house.
Visiting, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah,
US, but that's just no, that's me. Just because my ties to Mexico are so strong and so rooted
yeah.
that even like when people say like, oh, American, when I hear the word American, I think of everybody else, but no, I'm not American. But then again,
This,
American is a continent, so I guess that makes me American. But if we're talking about American in the context of the U.S., is
mhm.
like I don't see myself. You would never hear me like as an American. I think blah blah blah. I was like, no.
Right. This is so fascinating because I'm very similar. When I did study abroad, which I'm super grateful that I did, that was like a highlight, that was like a highlight moment for me. And I was in studying abroad in Spain, and my Spaniard friends, right? They're like, "Pero tía, tú no pareces americana." They were like denying or pushing back. They're like, "We don't think of you when we see you or we talk to you. Like, we don't think of you as an American. We think of you, if anything, as Latin American, right?" Because like culturally, I was so much more able to connect with them versus, let's say like students who are coming from other states in the US and your typical kind of like college US American college kid, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. um yeah, it's really interesting, but yeah, it's oh gosh, identity, right? Like
Mhm.
identity is such a fascinating thing, it's such a complicated thing. um but yeah, no, I think and I'm curious to hear kind of your perspective. I feel like when a person has gone through so much or has really like faced a lot of difficulties in life, sometimes the only thing you have is faith.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's the only glimmer of hope or the thing to cling to when things are really bad and things are really just awful and painful and that kind of thing. Faith, like that hope, I think is what gets people through. So I'm curious if that's, you know, something that you have also experienced or have also kind of noticed. I'd be curious to hear.
Yes, yeah, no, most definitely. I'd say that through my academic experience or journey,
Hmm.
starting with so when I came to the U.S., I was in English learning classes. Back then it was
Hmm.
called ESL,
Hmm.
and and then I they also placed me in special ed because I wasn't fluent in English.
Oh my gosh.
Knew
Wow.
that
Wow.
I had a need for those type of classes. But
Wow.
it's interesting because
Hmm.
in math, I was above the average of the
Above
school.
average.
Yeah. uh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
I was they couldn't
Like
keep up.
advanced or gifted program or something. Hmm. Hmm.
But
Wow.
yeah, so I didn't know what that you had to apply for college. I thought that going to college was how you move from elementary school to junior high to high school, that they tell you, okay, according to your district, this is where you belong. And I'm like,
Oh, that it was like automatic almost.
yeah.
Oh.
I
Mhm.
was like, how come no one has told me, like, where am I going to college? And then later on, oh, you actually have to apply, and then you have to take classes. And I was like, oh my God. It's a
Yeah.
little late. It's my spring quarter, or spring semester of my senior year. So I ended
Oh
up
my
in
God.
a community college, and I always say community college is fantastic, and it's an
It
awesome
is. It is.
option.
It's very underrated. It's very undervalued, but community college is amazing. Like, shout out
It's
to those
yeah,
professors and students.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would always say to what I say to college students is that what's important is that you have the right mentorship and that you ask
Yes.
questions, because if you don't,
The
you can
guidance.
fall so easy. You can
Mm-hmm.
fall so easy. And I fell through the cracks of the community
Mm,
college system. I was there for 6 years, like
mm.
taking classes here, taking classes there, and I was just so
Trying to figure it
lost.
out. Yeah.
Parents weren't able to help me, and this ties into religion.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the priest of my parish, Padre Mateo, from Sacred Heart Parish in San Jose, who was the one who basically took me under his wing, and he's the one who mentored me. Because when I went to my counselor, oh, because I worked as a receptionist at that time for the church.
Mhm.
I always tell people, I was like,
Oh,
uh, the only thing I have not participating in terms of the pastoral ministry is like celebrate mass. But I was a youth minister, a catechist aide, then I became a catechist, and I ran the whole catechism program. I
you've
was
done
a
it all. Yeah.
I
Oh,
was a lector.
I love it.
I did baptism classes, so everything. But he would always tell me is that you got to go to Santa Clara University because it's a Catholic university,
I
Jesuit. It's
love
like
it.
so for him it was like
Oh,
everything that you do here, this is where you
it's
should be
perfect. Yeah.
thrive.
Yeah.
So when I went to my counselor at West Valley and I told him that I wanted to transfer to SCU,
Hmm.
he looked at me, he had to tell me, he's all, well, Maria, Santa Clara University is a very intellectual university. Why don't you try applying to another college? And then when he said that, as a first gen student, I'm like, okay, he's an authority figure. He obviously knows the educational system more than I do. So
Wow.
right. So I went to my parents, and my parents like, no, pregúntale al Padre
Oh.
Mateo, él sabe. So I went to Padre Mateo, and he was so upset. And he's like, you know what?
That guy
Bring,
was putting you down. Like, what? Oh,
yeah.
no.
And Padre Mateo, he said, bring me a copy of your transcripts. I'll be your mentor.
Help
He
you.
was my mentor,
Wow.
and I transferred to SCU, and then from there, I said, as like, if SCU opens the door for me, I'm not gonna stop until like, I've reached my academic goal.
Good for
And I
you.
the day after the first day of SCU, I was still working at the church, and I show up at the church to work as a receptionist. And Padre Mateo was like, ¿Cómo te fue, mija? So I told him.
Mm.
He's all, okay, now you got to start thinking of the PhD.
Ah, I
This was
God
like,
bless God bless him. That's so amazing.
yeah,
Oh, how
that's
beautiful.
my first day as a transfer student at SCU, and he's already like, you got to start thinking
He's
PhD.
prepping you.
Yeah. So to me, that has always been the way
It's
that I
beautiful.
look at things in terms of how I look at my goals is that,
Yeah.
and I tell students too, is I don't think of like
Think big.
number one, but think really big
Think
because
big. Hmm.
yeah, if you shoot for a 10 and you land at a 9, wow, that's
Great. Yeah.
but if you start with shooting for a 5, you end up maybe at a 2 or 3 because you didn't really um, put all your effort and energy and faith into getting to a higher goal. So faith has been very very central for me, and especially in graduate school, I say
Hmm.
what got me through graduate school was my faith. It's
Amen.
almost I felt, I my visual that I have is, and I drew a picture. I have to find it somewhere. But La Virgen de Guadalupe,
Hmm.
I drew La Virgen de Guadalupe, and all stick figures. I don't know how to draw. And then at the very bottom, I draw a little stick figure of me with trenzas, and then I'm
Oh,
holding on to La Virgen's mantle from the bottom, like just with my two
you're
fingers,
so
and,
sweet.
I'm like
Oh,
flying. And I'm all, that was me through grad school. Is like I
yeah.
was just I felt like everything about the process, about just the culture itself said I
Yes.
don't belong, but I
Yes.
held on to La
Mhm.
Virgencita. Like I'm like maybe I can get through. But
That's
the way
amazing.
I explain is that if I can collect all the tears I shed through grad school, that I can
Ooh.
create another ocean.
Seriously, seriously. Yeah, I can totally relate. I remember in high school, the college counselor lady, she was very discouraging. You know how usually the counselors have to write a letter for the student or like a letter. It's kind of a letter recommendation, but they sort of talk about the student. And it was so negative and it was so blah. I was like, ew. I don't know how I ended up reading a copy of it or something like that, but I was like, ew, this lady was so like just painted me in the worst light. Anyway, it's very disappointing. And I do remember her discouraging me from applying to certain schools, basically saying similar like, don't reach so high. Why are you going to try to do that? Like you'll never get in and things like that. No, it was not cool. But I'm with you. PhD, definitely a lot of prayers. Like, please, Lord, help me through it. Because yeah, it was rough. It was rough to be in an environment that in some ways made me feel dumb. You know what I mean? Like it's like you don't belong here. Um, but yeah, anyway, I
It's also
totally
the
can
financial
relate.
toll because I remember that, especially in my first year of grad school, I really struggled, and
Hmm.
that I my so the money that I allocated for food and my whatever I needed during the week was $11. So with $11, that was for to pay for shampoo, toothpaste, food for me because and that's when how I made the point earlier about the financial strain also that we carry as first gen or
Yeah.
uh, college students. So because the rest of the money I was sending it back home
Oh,
because I went
wow.
to grad school, but not because I had the financial freedom to do so, but it was because my parents had that hope that one day she'll be a doctora, and
Yeah.
but I still had the financial responsibility, so I would send everything home and kept only $11. And God bless my
Oh my
housemates,
God.
they knew, and they there was I remember. Like Carrullo and Molly Maloney, if they ever see this, it's like I'm forever thankful to them because there were times where they're like, oh, I made dinner or, I made a pot of soup and there's a lot if you want some. I don't know
There's
if they
extra, we bought pizza, there's extra pizza or something. Yeah.
I live off of
Amazing.
coffee, y pan, like just like your sourdough bread with cream cheese and coffee, and then we had an orange tree, so I would
Oh,
eat oranges to fill me up.
oh my
And
gosh, so
yeah,
cool.
so that was,
Wow.
and then the other thing too is like when I was in grad school, so there are a lot of things that like people like don't know. When I
Don't
was
know. Yeah. Yeah.
the Hispanic Theological Initiative.
Hmm.
We were both part of it, which it was a community that I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
But I remember that there were grad students that'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to go back to my bed, go back home because my bed, I miss it." And I would just smile because in my case, I'm like, no, I'm like, I don't want to go back home because I didn't have a bed.
Oh my
I slept on the
gosh.
floor
Oh my God.
with the blanket, with the blanket
So
and a
cool.
pillow.
Are you
Uh,
serious?
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh my
when I was
God.
like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to my bed. I'm like, I don't want to go to my bed. My
Oh,
bed's
so
of course.
cool.
So that
Wow.
yes, that there were so many things that if had not been for my faith, I would have not been able um, to be able no, to
To
reach
make
my
it.
goal. I remember sitting
Yeah.
in seminars and hearing other grad students and the way that they spoke. I'm like the way they speak is like almost like I'm like listening to a book. They're so articulate, and I was always really quiet because I was not still struggling with the English language. And
Mm-hmm.
and I remember having conversations with God because I'm one the person that yeah, I do my prayers in the morning and night, but throughout the day, I'm always talking to God.
I love
And
it.
like, oh
It's
God,
beautiful.
like, will there be a day when I don't feel like I'm like a puppy barking at a seminar? 'Cause that's because I just like couldn't feel, I didn't feel that I couldn't get my points across or speak in the language, the articulate language of the other grad students. But I remember really,
Mm.
struggling with that. But then at the same time, I would always turn it around and be like, okay, I'm struggling now, but if one day, I
Mm-hmm.
have the blessing of having a child, I'm gonna make sure that kid is well prepared and that kid sounds like these students that are here with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always
Mm-hmm.
keep that in mind. I know back then I didn't know if I was gonna have a child or not, but I'm like, if I do, I want to make sure that that kid has that
They're
is well
prepared.
prepared, so that way that child doesn't feel or doesn't go through what I'm going through.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Soko, for sharing that. That's incredible. Like, yeah, I think it's so true. Like, it can be very intimidating. I also remember that, right? Where they're quoting, they're like, "Oh, Schleiermacher and blah blah blah, and this and that, and philosophical blah 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 blah." Kant said in his whatever treatise, and it's like, the hell is this? I'm like, what the hell are they talking about, right? And so, yeah, you again, like, you kind of feel dumb, you kind of feel embarrassed, you know. But what I'm realizing, I'm sure, like, you'll agree with me. It's like, wait a minute, that was all fluff anyway. You know what I mean? Like, looking back, it's like, oh no, like these guys were, or girls or whoever, they were just like talking it up, like using big words, Um, but and that's the crazy part. It's like, honestly, we shouldn't have felt intimidated because we have so much to offer. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, they have their thing and good for them, but we have so much knowledge, a different kind of knowledge, we can call it, right? Life experiences, all these things. Bilingual, you know what I mean? Like, we're bilingual. Like, if the class was in Spanish, how would they do, right? Like, if we're gonna, right? If we're gonna start comparing things, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah.
And, to the grad students who or college students that might be listening to this, one of the things that at least I experienced is that that there were times when my skin color, my name, Maria del Socorro Castañeda, and I have the double R, so it's not Socorro, it's Socorro.
Yeah.
That my name and my skin color, there were times that felt so heavy
Mm.
in the or at a conference. It's like I felt the heaviness, and it wasn't like
Yep.
a good heavy. It
Yeah.
was it was just like, oh my God. It was like, will I get through this?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how many times, you know, like after the conference is kind of winding down, how many of us will get together either at HGI or, at AAR talking about how we are treated, right? So for example, like how often one of us or many of us will be in the hotel for the conference wearing the badge, and then someone will ask, "Oh, can we get more coffee? Oh, can you bring me more towels for my room?" It's like, seeing that we're in the same conference that you are, right? In other words, the point being, it's rooted in racism.
Yes, yes,
Those comments are rooted in racism. Don't tell me. I don't think people can tell me otherwise. It's an assumption, right?
yes,
It's an assumption that brown women who look like us, or African American women, or women of color, this idea or assumption that they couldn't possibly have PhDs, they couldn't possibly be provosts or vice presidents or whatever of these institutions. No, it's
yeah.
it's
No,
so it's so crazy. It's
yeah,
like,
no, and I totally agree with you because let's talk about titles.
oh yes,
So there are some people that are like titles are not important. Titles don't matter, or no, don't lead with your title.
uh-huh,
No, when I'm with familia, when I'm with la comunidad, I'm Soco. My other
correct.
name is Maria del Socorro, so either I'm Mari or I'm Soco. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but in professional settings, oh, I'm Dr. Castañeda. And the reason
Exactly.
why, and these, no, if grad students are watching this, listening to this, is that you are Dr. Gutierrez,
Whatever.
Gonzalez,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Garcia, because it's
You
the
earned it.
assumptions. They
Mm-hmm.
see us brown, they see
Yep.
us female.
Yep.
If we speak with an accent, then
Mm-hmm.
then the last thing that's going to cross their minds is that we are PhDs or MDs.
Yep.
Uh, so
Exactly.
to me, is that titles are important
They
because
are.
people are going to assume so many other things except that I'm a PhD. So and
Mhm.
obviously there's a place and a time to use the titles, and
Mhm.
I really understand that. But in professional settings, is that if you're a doctor, you're a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. You know, I mention it sometimes, even to students. You know, I'll give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't know, but I'll bring it up and be like, um, as a woman of color with a doctorate,
Hmm.
I do request that you address me as either Professor Guerra, Dr. Guerra, Profe, something,
Yes.
because exactly right. Like, and especially, this assumptions, right? Like, because I'm relatively like on the younger side of right, for
Yes.
professors, as far as professors go, it's like, okay, she's younger, she's a woman, she's Latina. That doesn't mean that haven't put in my work. You know what I mean? Like, I put in the work. I have my degree.
Yes.
And so, and it really, I was just talking about this with another colleague. Um, it bugs me when, for example, uh, male Caucasian professors will try to be overly familiar and try to be very buddy buddy with their students. Like,
Hmm.
oh, call me Sam, call me Bob, call me Mike. Okay, you already are going to be able to command power, right? By virtue of being a white male, in this world, okay? Right? In this world. As of right now, that's kind of still where the power lies, okay? Right? It's like
Hmm.
that's kind of where the power lies. And so it's like, okay, you want to like be like friendly with your students, but I don't have that luxury, basically. It's kind of like I can't do that right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, for listeners, I hope this is landing well. I hope you kind of folks, for folks who are not really like familiar with the academic world, this is the thing. This is the thing. This has been an ongoing conversation with other faculty of color, especially women of color. You know, and we can get into this too. The unfair amount of labor that is put on women of color,
Hmm. Hmm.
extra
Yeah.
labor. Like,
Well,
oh, can you meet with oh, can you meet with the visiting students? Oh, can you make sure there's refreshments for this event? Oh, can you take the notes for the meeting? Oh, extra, 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 all this stuff when other people are not asked to do that.
mhm.
Right. So that's also an issue
Yeah,
for
I know.
sure.
Yeah. I remember when I was teaching at Santa Clara University, I was told by some professors, "Oh, it's like I met this student, and that student is just like you. I'm gonna send them over, or send her over."
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Interesting.
there was this other professor that, because my office at Santa Clara, I had, El Chavo del Ocho, La Chilindrina. I always had a
Mm.
basket of Mexican candy, just to
Oh, that's awesome.
I wanted to do, what I wanted to convey in my space, my physical space, is a sense of home for students.
It's
And I
beautiful.
remember this white professor, she comes in, he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "Can I bring my students for a tour of your office?" I was like, "I'm not a zoo."
Awkward, awkward.
Yeah,
That's
but
very awkward.
with you, the one of the beautiful moments, one of the many beautiful moments that I had, that I am, brought with me when I left teaching or academia. One of them is that I had office hours, and then one student showed up. It was a white student, and she's like, "Oh, professor, your office looks so," and then she just couldn't find the word. She was so festive, because I even had a piñata. Okay,
Oh,
because I even had a piñata
I
there.
love
And
it.
so festive. I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And obviously, she meant well, so I'm not saying anything bad about her,
Yeah,
but
it wasn't even bad.
that's
Yeah, yeah,
how the space.
yeah.
So the next comes this other student who is now a bilingual teacher. So that I'm really proud of him. He
Mm.
comes in, and then he says, "Profesora," and I'll say in Spanish and I'll translate it in English.
Sure. Mm.
"Su oficina, wow," dice, "me acuerda la sala de mi casa." He's like, "Your office reminds me of my living room." I'm like,
I
"Yes,
love it.
that's exactly what I was going to." And
Home, literally home. I love it. That's
yeah.
fantastic.
And he went on to say, he's like, "You know what? I love going to your classes, because when I go in, he's like, I go in so happy, because um for me, it's like I have
Mm.
my mom teaching, because you talk like my mom."
That's
He's
sweet.
like, so I feel comfortable, because I feel like
That's
I'm
sweet.
taking a class from my mom.
Oh,
Oh my
that's
God.
very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, in the past when I've had like my own office space where I could decorate and everything like that, I would, decorate for Dia de los Muertos. I'd always have like fotos de Guatemala, different, different things that, it's not only part of my culture, but it's kind of also connected to like my personality, if that makes sense, right? Like it's me, you know what I mean? Like, in other words, I'm just being me, I'm not like overly thinking about it. I'm just like bringing things from my home to decorate, right? Like, this is my stuff. Like, it's not like yeah, it's, in other words, like, it's not like, oh, let me make this office look like, Latina office. No, it's like, this is just my stuff that I love, that I like, and it happens to be very reflective of my culture,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know? So that's really cool. And it's true, like, it is true. Students do appreciate that. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
want to share one more
Yeah. Mhm.
example of with my students, because I think these are just really beautiful. They that every when we had when there were times that we would watch movies at the end of the week, to kind of to bring that theory together,
Mhm.
and put flesh on it, and
Mhm.
we would have potlucks. And in
Oh,
one
cool.
class, yeah. So in this particular class, I had maybe like two Latino students, and the rest of them were like non-Latino,
Mhm.
and mostly white and Asian American. And there was this one young man from Peru,
Mhm.
and so everybody started bringing the chips and the cookies, and then I hear a knock, and then somebody is like, "Oh, no, it's so and so, let him in," and they open the door. the student comes with a huge, I mean, huge olla, like the olla is the size of the tamales for Christmas, full of chocolate that he made chocolate, hot chocolate
I
for
love
everybody.
it. I
And
love it. That's so cool.
he was, and all the other kids like, what is it? And I was just like, oh, I get goosebumps because it's like, you know,
Oh,
the limited time I had at ISU, I feel, at least from some of the students that share with me, I feel that I try my best to carve a space for them because he,
yeah, it's special. You made an absolutely like 1000%. You made an impact on them and they will always remember you. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like they will always remember your class. They will always remember working with you. When I was, let's see, not this past quarter because I was teaching online, but in the past, like when I'm on campus and stuff, like at the end, especially when they're wrapping up like their final papers, final projects, I usually do a potluck or something, kind of like to share snacks and drinks and things like that. And I remember one of my students, her mom made pupusas, like
ah,
her mom like handmade like I don't know 50 pupusas or something like that, and she brought frijoles, arroz. I mean, she made a whole like sit
the whole,
down meal. Yeah, it was so delicious. It was so good.
it
It
was,
was really cool.
and
Yeah.
then the student had the same experience as this student that I was sharing you about because then all the students surrounded him and like, what is it? And he was one of the most quiet students, muy
Oh,
calladito. But that moment, that space was his, and that moment was his because then he went on to explain how he made the chocolate and its ties to Peru, and I'm like,
wow.
exactly, it's like I wanted him to own that classroom, to own that
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's his moment. It's his moment. Yeah.
mhm.
That's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, like over the years, like students will bring, like just things from their culture, like bringing tamales or bringing, pupusas or, um, yeah, like I've had it's different students of different backgrounds bringing like foods from their home, from their culture and stuff, and I love it. It's so fun. That's so cool. Oh, so cool. This is so great. Um, let's see, friends. So I wanted to talk a little bit about becoming mujeres. I think that it's such an incredible, powerful organization. Mental health is something that I'm very passionate about. I think people know this. Yeah, I think mental health is so important. And I'm glad that people are slowly starting to talk about it more. Like slowly but surely, people are realizing how important like healthy mental health is,
Mhm.
and kind of like that self-care and that kind of thing, therapy, all the above, right? So I would love to hear like how you started the organization and what the organization is working on now and how people can get involved.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. So becoming mujeres is its roots are very very personal, and they tie my daughter and me. And what happened is that when I left academia, I was trying to find ways on how to um, bring what I used to teach in the classroom out to la comunidad, to la gente.
Mm,
But I was struggling. I was struggling to find a way to make that transition. And
mm,
I think that for most academics who are in this journey of maybe I can contribute outside the ivory tower, we that's what we struggle with, like how.
how?
So I was spending a lot of time not knowing how to make this transition. And then one day, my daughter Lupita, she comes home and she starts crying. She was 13 at the time, and
Mm.
what's going on? And she had just started sixth grade, and she said, "Well, my friends who were my friends in elementary school are now acting different." And so they were basically bullying her. They were
Oh no.
a lot of body shaming. Um,
What?
like her weight, like how slow she was developing, and
Oh no. That is terrible. Oh my gosh.
so she went through a lot. And remember when she was sharing me and giving me these examples of what these kids, these girls were telling her, girls that
Wow.
she had known
Mean
for
girls.
all her elementary.
Literally mean girls. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And at that, as the more that she shared, the more I felt like my heart was beating faster, to the point
Mhm.
that I felt like it was just torn into a million pieces because here I am,
I can
someone
imagine. Yeah.
as a feminist who has done feminist work,
Right.
who has written a book on feminism and religion,
Mm-hmm.
who taught that subject in class, and here I am with my daughter, and
Mm-hmm.
she's going through this experience,
Yeah.
and and you know, at the more she, and then I told her, okay, well, let's go online to see. I was thinking like something quick, like, are there videos that she can watch, that uplift Latinas?
Resources. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something.
and we went online, and she was searching, I was searching, and we couldn't find anything. There were YouTube videos aimed to African American girls, many for white girls, but you know,
Hmm.
some of these like videos that are material that's offered to white girls, it's assumed that it applies to everybody, and it doesn't.
Not
No,
necessarily. Yeah.
no, no, because she was
Representation is a real thing. Like it to see yourself reflected. Yeah. No,
yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Then I turned to Lupita. Mo, Lupita, what do you think that we should do? And he said, Mommy, can we do something?
I love it.
So because I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one. There are other Latinas
Yeah.
who are going through this, and her words just made everything
Click.
click.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like my academic training with the need of the community embodied in the needs of my
Incredible.
daughter. It
Oh my
all
gosh.
I'm all like, yes,
Yes.
epiphany is like, yeah, I'm like, I hear you. And so that's when we started Becoming Mujeres, and the reason why we named it Becoming Mujeres is because um to me, like, it's a process. It's not, you know, becoming is a process. It's never like, okay, I'm
Hmm.
becoming, and then I'm going to reach a point where I'm
Done
like,
or something.
that. It's like,
Hmm.
no, you know, becoming human. Let's talk about just humanity. Like, becoming human is a lifelong process. So
Hmm.
that's the reason why
The
we have.
growth. Yeah.
So Becoming Mujeres, what we do is that you can look up us, look us up on YouTube. We have a
Right.
YouTube channel, Becoming Mujeres. We have a webpage called, also titled Becoming Mujeres. It's under construction because we're entering a new phase. But what we do is that we offer advice, in the form of short stories or workshops into Latina teens and their female caregivers.
Mm.
Because, you know, one thing is to talk to the Latina teens and give them the tools so that they can thrive. But if we don't have the same conversation with the female caregivers, that and obviously there are exceptions where male caregivers take the lead,
Yeah.
but in this case we focus on female caregivers. If they don't have we don't have the same conversations with them, the girls can only thrive up to a point,
Sure.
because
The
because
support, like the home support, is necessary for sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
it's
That makes
yeah,
sense totally.
talk about Latina teen mental help or health. I mean, is to talk about generational trauma.
Uh
And
huh.
not unless we tackle the generational, have open, honest conversations about the generational trauma that
Yeah.
gets passed down from our abuelitas to our mothers, and then mothers unintentionally pass on
Hmm.
to the daughters, is that we won't break the cycle. Is like, cállate, no digas nada,
Right.
aguántate, you know, just keep going. Or
Yeah.
the other one too that we hear a lot is que va a decir la gente? What would people
Oh
say?
yeah. El que dirán always. Yeah.
And then the el que dirán, you know, que va a decir la gente, el que dirán. What we have seen is that how that gets transferred in the minds of Latina teens is that they have this really um, genuine fear of being judged. There are
Mm.
Latina teens who have told us, when I walk into the cafeteria, the first thing that goes in through my mind, I feel like people are looking at me. I feel like I'm being
Oh.
judged. I feel
Yeah.
like they're gonna make fun of my hair. I feel like they're gonna
Mm.
make fun of my face. Um, what if they know, they can tell that I'm in my period, like on my period.
Oh.
Like, so there's a lot of things that go through.
That runs through their mind. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you add social media
Oh.
to it. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
very complicated. So that's the reason
Yeah.
why we have Becoming Mujeres, because we want to help. And we're not saying that Lupita and I have all the answers, or that Lupita and I have, like, oh my God, you know, we had that experience, and
Hmm.
that's it. No, Lupita's going through experiences now, and she'll be going through experiences, continue to go through experience in the future, because it's
Hmm.
part of being human, just as
Yeah.
I'm going through some experiences as well myself. Um, and that's what we want to convey, is that we want to teach from our experiences, but no,
Yeah.
we're also in the process
Growing
of
together. Yeah.
growing together.
Evolving. That's beautiful. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, in terms of social media, I do. I really do. I worry about young people on social media because I think that, at a younger and younger age, the comparisons begin, like feeling ugly, the eating disorders, like all the bullying, I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et
Yes,
cetera, like all those things, like, and it's true, like before, the bully would be at school and then you could finally go home and at least be
exactly.
safe,
That
right?
was our
Safe from the
generation.
bullying. But now it's like 24/7. The bully can message you, the bully's friends can message you, for example, right? It's like nonstop. And so, anyway, I do think that young people can be really affected by things like social media. Um, it may not seem like a big deal to adults, but for them, it's like,
It's their
it's such a
world.
big deal. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, oh my gosh. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, I will definitely tag the YouTube channel or link it so that people can see the YouTube channel of Becoming Mujeres. Very cool. Amazing. That's beautiful. And it was really born out of your own experiences as a mom, with Lupita's experiences at school and things like that. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yes.
Amazing. It's really powerful. It's really beautiful. Um, so as we wrap up, this has been really fun. This has been a really great conversation. And speaking of young women, what advice would you give to young Latinas today, or even on a more personal level? What advice would you give young Soko or little Soko, if you could go back in time and give her advice, what would you say?
Okay, this is really important because I'm going to tell you what advice I try to give myself every day. Going back to
Okay.
the process
Yes.
of the study, which is the same advice that I would give to young Latinas, whether you're in elementary school, junior high, high school, college, or grad
Hmm.
school, is do not be afraid to shine your light big and bright. Porque a veces nos quedamos calladas because if I say like I'm doing this, so and so is gonna feel bad, or people are going to say, oh my God, look, she thinks she's all that. And it's like, don't be afraid to shine your light big and bright. Because one of the things that I regret, now looking back, is that there were many times when I dimmed my light to make others feel comfortable. Okay. And that's something that I continue to struggle with.
Yeah.
So that I continue to struggle with that. So that would be my advice: is that don't be afraid to shine your light big and bright. And and I'm not saying like be cocky or be aloof. No, 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 no. There's ways of doing it, and it
Yes.
just be authentic. Be you.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't pretend to be somebody else. But yeah, show us who you are.
Be yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to know you. Oh no, all the goodness that you have to offer. Like don't dim that. And if people don't feel comfortable with it, they can put some shades on, or
Yeah.
as Lupita says, they can put sunscreen on and get a
Oh,
nice
that's
tan.
funny. Yeah,
That
exactly.
that would be my advice. And I say this de todo corazón, because this is something that I continue to remind myself. Like, Soko, don't dim your light to make others feel comfortable. And that's and it's from that space, from that context,
Yeah.
where I'm saying, like, if you're a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
let them call you doctor in professional spaces.
Yeah.
Call yourself a doctor. Don't say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Sandra. No, 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 I'm Dr. So and so,
Yeah.
because you worked for it and you earned it. So that's
Exactly.
it comes from this about my, I want to emphasize that my concept of titles, and don't hide the titles, comes from a
Hmm.
space of love and affirmation,
Yes.
because I know that
You
we
earned
help
it. Yeah.
these titles so much.
Yeah, I am with you 10,000% on that advice of, don't dim your light, don't dim your shine. I always say shine bright like a diamond, right? Because it's true. Like a lot of times we feel uncomfortable, we're worried how other people will react. Like that's for me, I'm like, that's over now. That's that's
Yeah.
not gonna happen anymore. Um, and it's true. Like I'm not gonna lie, so my on my mom's side, my grandfather was a tailor. He crossed from Guatemala to cross into California and started his path here in Los Angeles. So my grandfather's a tailor. To now his granddaughter, I have a PhD from Berkeley. Come on, you know what I mean? I'm like, come on, like that was hard earned. That was hard earned in every sense of the word. Like you said, the tears shed. Yeah, and again, like it's not, and I think Soko, you'll know what I'm saying with this. It's not really about me. It's about like what it means. Like
Yes.
what it means for my family, for our people, for in a bigger scope to be like, yeah, that's Dr. Castaneda, that's Dr. Guerra. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I work hard for it.
Yeah. Well, going
Yeah.
back with the titles, because like this is like a great conversation. In that, it's also like to me, like you say, it's not about me, but it goes beyond. It to me is
Yeah.
like when I say Dr. Castañeda, it to me is like what I'm the reason for me using the title is to convey that people who look like me have the ability and capability and the intelligence to earn a
To
PhD
do
or
it.
any
Hmm.
whatever degree that they choose to. And
Hmm.
I say this because I remember at mass we had a graduation mass at my parish way back before I started grad school. I was still at the community college. And I graduated from West Valley College at that time. So we had a graduation mass, and the one who came to spoke with us was Dr. Josie Negrete, and
Mm.
she wore her PhD regalia, and I remember I'm like, oh, I
So
want that.
cool.
And then Padre Mateo is all, Mari, ven para acá, is all. I was telling Josie that you wanna go for a PhD, and then what Dr. Negrete said, I'll never forget this, is that
Mm.
she took off the graduation hat, and then she put it on me, and then she
Oh,
said,
that's awesome.
"This belongs here." It was
Oh,
such a moment
it's
of
powerful.
affirmation.
Oh, yes.
I
Yes.
focus on that. It's like this Latina PhD sees that a PhD is for me.
Hmm. You're going to do it. Yeah.
Something that I cannot see right now, but that I need to believe in and have faith
Yes.
in.
Hmm. Hmm. To have faith that it's going to happen. Yeah. That is incredible. I love it. I love it. I love it. That is so awesome. And a wonderful note to end on. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Dr. Castaneda, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was very moving. It was very moving, and I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing, your journey and your faith and everything that you shared today. So, thank you
Muchas
so much,
gracias.
amiga.
Te quiero mucho. Te mando un abrazo and thank you
Thank
all.
you. Thank you so much. For everyone listening, thank you for joining us. I hope you really enjoyed this very special episode of the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra. You can stream this episode anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, including Apple Music, Spotify, everywhere. And we also have the interview episodes are available on YouTube too. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.